Hello and good afternoon. I'm PASHA RAHIM and you are watching Bernama World. The Commonwealth is stepping into a new era, one driven by young people, digital transformation and sustainable growth. As global challenges evolve, so does the Commonwealth's mission to empower its 56 member nations with stronger partnerships, smarter development strategies and greater opportunities for youth to thrive. Joining us today to unpack this bold new direction is Jennifer NAMGYAL, Acting Director of Social Development, Youth and Gender at the Commonwealth's Secretariat. Welcome to the show, Jennifer. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Pasha.
All right, let's go ahead and dive deep into this conversation today. Now, first of all, let's begin with the Commonwealth Secretariat's new strategic plan for 2025-2030. What are some of the key points or key priorities under this plan? And perhaps you could also share with us what is your overarching vision for the Commonwealth under your leadership?
So we do have new leadership. Starting this year has been the new Secretary General, the Honourable Shirley Botchway of Ghana. She took office earlier this year and comes in with a very powerful mandate for change. Excuse me. And her vision really is to make the organisation, the Secretariat for the Commonwealth, work for resilience across the grouping of countries. And it's based on a vision of shared prosperity.
Right.
You know, we have a membership of 56 countries. We cover 2 and a bit billion people around the world. And so that means it's an enormously relevant grouping of countries. And so we're guided in our work by a strategic plan. So the SG's first port of call has been to make sure this is in place. And it really focuses on 5 key areas to help transform the Commonwealth. Firstly, looking at democracy and good governance. We're looking to work with mechanisms to respond to democratic fragility across our countries, taking advantage of new partnerships for early warnings to help prevent crises before they take hold.
Right.
A second key area is trade and investment. We'll help to deliver policies to enhance ease of doing business across borders, capitalizing on the many free trade agreements involving our member countries, and investments for high development impact right across our member countries. A third key area is youth and gender. And obviously advocating for small states. So of our 56 member countries, over 30 are small states and they have particular needs. So we'll really work to champion a Commonwealth-wide distance education initiative for digital skills and entrepreneurship. This really targets women and young people. And we're working with partners to help strengthen access to data for up to 10 million youth. We're also working to help further the ambitions of Commonwealth young entrepreneurs to turn promising ideas into successful businesses. So women, young people, small states is at the heart of everything we do. It cuts right across the programs of the Secretariat. Right. A fourth area, climate change. We live in an era of the climate crisis, so the Secretariat and the Commonwealth as a whole works to champion a renewable energy revolution. And this is to match the Commonwealth's clean energy production potential with access to affordable credit for installation, expanding the grouping's business potential. And last but not least, underpinning this all, of course, is economic resilience. We're working to build Commonwealth consensus on the Bridgetown Initiative, ensuring that climate and other vulnerabilities are factored into debt treatment and development finance. So we're looking to really beef up how we work. Our work will be measured not in the numbers of meetings and reports, but by the real impact we'll help to deliver in the lives of the people of the Commonwealth.
All right, so that's definitely a lot on the plate right now. Let's just put a focus on Southeast Asia in particular. Now, it is an emerging dynamic growth region. How does the Commonwealth intend to deepen its engagement and also partnerships in this part of the world, and especially with countries like Malaysia?
Yeah, so Southeast Asia really is a powerhouse. You know, Asia is a powerhouse of the Commonwealth, and a key part of our work is to strengthen the partnerships that the Secretariat and the Commonwealth bring to our membership. In terms of engaging with Southeast Asia in particular, I think our members are already very engaged with the Commonwealth. There are partnerships well underway, and we're looking to strengthen these into the future. So especially when it comes to things like investment, finance, digital skills, there are real opportunities that that are powering growth in this part of the world that I think many of our countries in other parts of the Commonwealth are keen to learn from, keen to have that exchange of ideas as they focus on their own growth.
Now, early on when we were speaking about the key priorities in the Commonwealth Secretariat's new strategic plan, you did mention economic resilience and also climate change being two areas of focus. What are some of the concrete strategies that the Commonwealth is implementing to help countries rebuild stronger, especially after economic shocks or climate-related disruptions?
Yeah, it really is, I think, an effort that brings a lot of different partners together. So it's not only us that are working in this space, there are many others. But I think for the Commonwealth itself, we're working with our member countries to help strengthen access to sustainable finance. And this is to help build infrastructure that will withstand climate shocks. We're looking to mobilize blended capital and adopt policy reforms that help to de-risk investment. We're especially focused on small and climate vulnerable states. I mentioned earlier that over 30 of our states are small states, many of them are small island states. They face very particular challenges from climate change, but also economically in terms of the economies of scale and scope that very small and micro states face. And so our key focus is to ensure that our members are not left behind. There's a lot for our countries to learn from each other. There's a lot for them to learn from Southeast Asia as well. And so I think our approach is both practical and inclusive, and we're looking to build on that in the next 5-year period.
All right. There have been calls for greater accountability within Commonwealth institutions. How do you plan to address these concerns?
Accountability in what sort of terms?
Generally just how are we able to better support member nations?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a long-standing stream of work within the Commonwealth on good governance and democracy, and accountability is grounded and rooted in these institutions. I think that continues into our next phase. So there's a real focus on citizen engagement and working with particularly young people, women, marginalized groups in strengthening their access to decision making, in their participation in decision making, to help strengthen that accountability of governments. Yes.
Well, we mentioned youth and women, right? Why is it important to engage with youth and women especially?
So I think I mentioned there's about 2.7 billion people in the Commonwealth, and over 60% of them are under the age of 29. So it's a complete no-brainer to engage in youth and youth development, because they form the bulk of our population and they form the bulk of the future of the Commonwealth. So it's enormously important that they're engaged and that they are able to participate fully in decisions that will affect them into the future. I think when you talk about youth and women as categories, it's really important to recognize that access is not always easy for some parts of our communities. And when you work with governments, when you work between governments, it's important to encourage specific action to ensure that the voices of people who are less included are included. And so this does tend to be women, tend to be young people, tend to be people who live far from urban centers. So I think the need for this cross-cutting approach, the need for this to be built into our governance structures remains at the heart of our work.
Right. How do we plan to empower women and youth? I mean, obviously in a lot of communities, women and youth are the most marginalized.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways in which our member countries address this. There's been long-standing work on reforming discriminatory legislation. I think most of our countries, almost all our countries, have acceded to the major human rights conventions, and so most of our countries have made the formal moves to repeal discriminatory legislation. How it works in practice is the next step, of course. So we do partner with our member governments in identifying good practice, ensuring that it's shared between governments, that there is learning that can cut across the borders of our countries. I think a second key aspect is ensuring that space is created for the voices of young people, women and other marginalized groups to be heard in our own decision making. And so we have very specific programs that address this. This week we've had a meeting of the Commonwealth Youth Ministers Task Force here in Malaysia, and you know they are charged with youth development in their countries. So they were here to report on what's happened, what the developments have been, what the achievements have been over the last year. And it's very inspiring to hear what member countries have been doing to strengthen the voices of young people in their countries.
What are some of the challenges that has been brought up at these meetings?
I think in terms of youth development, funding is always a challenge. It remains a challenge in all of our countries, whether they're very big, very small, very wealthy or not. I think the challenges around digital skills and inclusion and what that means for economic security and for you know, the jobs market for young people is a real challenge that all of our countries are identifying, and that's been a common theme this week.
All right. Now, the 5th Global Youth Workers Conference is currently underway in Kuala Lumpur. We will be talking about that in just a minute. We will be taking a very short break and we will come back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. We are speaking to Jennifer NAMGYAL, the Acting Director of Social Development, Youth and Gender from the Commonwealth Secretariat. Now, we've just mentioned that the 5th Global Youth Workers Conference is currently happening in Kuala Lumpur. Now, we want to understand why it's important for the Commonwealth to convene this meeting in Southeast Asia now, and what is the role that you envision Malaysia playing in shaping the Commonwealth's future?
So it's a really exciting conference, and it kicked off this morning with a lot of energy. Youth work as a discipline is something that the Commonwealth has championed with its partners and has for a number of years. And I think the process of formalizing the training and accreditation around youth work really underpins why this conference is important. It's been really important to bring this meeting to Southeast Asia because it sends a really powerful message to young people. They constitute about 1/3 of the population in Southeast Asia, and they're central to our current and our current economic and democratic potential. So this is why we've mentioned already that youth empowerment is a central strand cutting across all our work. And Malaysia provides a really strong platform for that. Malaysia has many firsts to its credit in youth development. It was 6th in the Commonwealth and 35th out of 183 countries ranked globally on the Youth Development Index, which evaluates education, employment and opportunity, as well as equality, inclusion, health and well-being, peace and security, and political and civic participation. So, you know, it's clear that as a really high achiever in this, Malaysia has a lot to share with our other countries, and there are delegates at this conference from right across the Commonwealth, and they're really keen to learn. I understand as well that it's now a degree course, if not offered as a PhD at UPM, and so this is something that is of great interest to the delegates who've travelled from around the world. In the effort to professionalize youth work, Malaysia is again very highly ranked. The Ministry of Youth and Sports and UPM's Institute of Social Science Studies have developed the National Occupational Skills Standards for youth work. And so again, this is something that is of enormous interest for youth workers from right across the Commonwealth. So I've seen firsthand how Malaysia is an excellent example of how forging strategic partnerships can prevent youth violence, particularly online. And so we're continuing to build partnerships with like-minded partners to benefit all of our 1.6 billion young citizens.
Right. Now, while there is definitely a lot of advancements when we're talking about youth development, we also mustn't forget those who are living in rural and underserved communities. How do we make sure that this doesn't happen, especially when we're talking about the digital divide? We need to keep them up to speed with digital learning, and skills training obviously is also very crucial for future development.
Yeah, this has been a very common theme in discussions with ministers, but also with practitioners this week. It's very much a key part of our strategic plan going forward. It's one of the key intermediate outcomes that we'll be working on in the next 5 years. The SG has a very clear vision to reach 10 million young people with access to data and access to digital skills for jobs of the future. It's very much a partnership matter. It is something that not only governments will deliver, but in partnership with business, with foundations, with the full suite of actors in this space. So we're at the point, I think, of developing this, and I expect that it'll be a big part of our work in the next 5 years.
Right. Let's move our chat towards a different direction. Now, we also mentioned one of the key priorities being trade and investment. Now, with global tensions, we've got shifting alliances and also rising protectionism in many countries. How is the Commonwealth positioning itself as, number one, relevant and also a united force in international trade?
So I think at a time when others are pulling back, the Commonwealth is reaching out. Protectionism is about putting up barriers. We estimate that about US 750 billion in Commonwealth exports are at risk as a result. And so we see this moment in international relations as a moment of opportunity to build on our exceptionalism and to make multilateralism work for our members. I think despite global protectionism, intra-Commonwealth trade is booming. It's reached about $854 billion in 22 and is on track to exceed $1 trillion by 2026. So we intend to reach $2 trillion by 2030. This is part of our ambitions for the next 5 years. But these figures aren't just numbers. They are evidence that the Commonwealth cooperation works, that delivering jobs, investment, and opportunity for our people is key for all of us.
Right. Let's talk about young people, because that's what we're chatting about here, right? Many times when we're talking about high-level policy conversations, it's very intimidating. How do you plan, or how are you working to make these trade, investment, and also entrepreneurship dialogues more inclusive of youth and also grassroots entrepreneurs? Because it can feel very disconnected sometimes.
Yeah, it's a real challenge, but our young people are not bystanders. They are the drivers of our economic future. And so we have really clear calls from leaders right across the Commonwealth: unlock investment, make trade work for young people. And so our Secretary General is working to harness the strengths and of young people, and is looking to champion 2 big areas of work in this space. One, I think, is on access, universal access to digital learning for the jobs of the future. And this really is in facilitating high-quality digital and entrepreneurial skills to the young people of the Commonwealth. Secondly, I think, is looking to strengthen youth entrepreneurship, so that we realize a shared prosperity. I think in terms of reaching young people, it is a real challenge. the Commonwealth does have networks of youth right across our member countries. We have a youth council. We have networks that are based on particular areas of interest. So we've got a youth climate change network, and we work with the young people to ensure that they've got voices at some of our major gatherings, at the COP, for example, on the margins of the heads of government meeting. We do convene regularly and make a real effort to bring together youth leaders from our member countries.
Also, Malaysia has long championed youth leadership and also education. Now, what role do you see Malaysia playing, especially in advancing Commonwealth initiatives in Asia, especially those linked to digital inclusion and also, like you said, youth entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've mentioned that there's a lot to learn from Malaysia. There's been enormous advances in this country in recent years, and right across Southeast Asia. And I think one of the things that the Commonwealth is really good at doing is bringing our members together to learn from each other. We obviously have the heads of government who meet every 2 years, but beyond that we have networks of young people. We have regular meetings of ministers and of senior officials based on the sectors that they work in. And these are opportunities for sharing and learning between our member countries. So even beyond kind of formal programs of action, there is, I think, an enormous benefit to the sharing at level. You know, if you get officials from a particular agency, they have a lot in common with officials from the same agency from another country. Right. So I think those sorts of things are really important. I think in terms of what Malaysia can offer, it's so much. There's so much to learn from this part of the world. There's so much to learn from the growth that you have driven in the last few years. And I think certainly for all our member countries, but in particular our small states, there's a real desire to build on that.
All right, finally, Jennifer, what message would you like to share to the people of Malaysia, especially our youth workers, regarding this new vision for a renewed Commonwealth?
Well, I hope they will engage. I hope that they will take a bit of time to learn about what we do. We welcome engagement with young people in particular. There are networks in all of our member countries, but in Malaysia as well. And so we'd say take advantage of this, get in touch. We're keen to hear from you.
All right, and that's all the time that we have with Jennifer NAMGYAL. She is the Acting Director of Social Development for Youth and Gender from the Commonwealth Secretariat. The 5th Global Youth Workers Conference is currently underway in Kuala Lumpur, and we hope that there will be a lot of good things coming out from the conference, and we hope that the collaboration that we have with the Commonwealth will continue for many, many years to come. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today, and that is all the time that we have on Bernama World. Don't forget to visit bernama.com and also all of our social media. You can get updates on bernama.com. I am PASHA RAHIM. Thanks for watching.